everyone, Lego Mega 961 here with another video. Well, as I'm recording this, today is October 16th, 2023, and it was on this day in history, the Walt Disney Company opened its doors to the public. Yes, folks, celebrating 100 years to this very day, the Walt Disney Company celebrates 100 years of wonder. With its creation of Mickey Mouse in 1928 to the first full-length animated movie of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937, and to its first theme park released in 1955, the Walt Disney Company has not only entertained but brought us laughter, joy, and creativity to everyone around the world. And having won known for making cartoons since the very beginning with Laugh-O-Grams and Mickey Mouse, they also brought us so many wonderful movies that many of us have grown attached to over the years. And it is on this video that I'm going to go over a list of my personal favorite Disney movies. And so, without further ado, here's my top 11 favorite Disney movies. Why top 11? Because like the Nostalgia Critic, I like to go one step beyond. Number 11. The Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Starting in the 2000s, in the year 2003, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise started with its first film, The Curse of the Black Pearl, which rocked the box office, which would spawn Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, On Stranger Tides, and Dead Men Tell No Tales, was many years later. Now, as I stated in my favorite Disney attractions video, the Pirates of the Caribbean is my second favorite attraction, with the Haunted Mansion being my all-time favorite. Now, when many of us think of pirates, we think of a swashbuckling buccaneers who raided British ships and Spaniards and buried treasure and all that. But, like I said, the Pirates is one of my favorite attractions. With the first movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, it was spectacular. I mean, I love the effects in it. I love the costuming, the setting, and even the ships like the Black Pearl, well, the Dauntless, which is actually a real used ship. They renamed it to fit the story. And Isla de Muerta, including Tortuga. Now, in Tortuga, there was a lot of references to the ride itself. Like, for example, when we see a couple pirates drinking rum, like under a barrel. Like one sitting on top of a barrel, which we see towards the end of a ride. Like in the Anaheim Mansion. Not the Anaheim Mansion, the Anaheim attraction. Now, in the second film, Dead Man's Chest, we also see another reference to the ride where we see a group of pirates dunking a guy into the well. Now, that was a direct reference to the pirates dunking the mayor into the well, trying to force him to reveal the location of the town treasury. Yeah, that was before when Disney revamped the attraction to tie it into the movie with the pirates looking for Jack Sparrow. Yeah, didn't know that, did you? And of course, the scene where Will and Jack are trying to take the Dauntless is when they were using a boat under the water. I do find that pretty funny, but also a little weird. Even so, the Mythbusters actually tried the myth out, saying that was impossible. But as I said, like the Nostalgia Critic said in one of the reviews he did, it's just a Disney attraction that's turned into a movie, so just go along with it. And also, we also dive deep into Jack's story on how he lost the pearl due to a mutiny with led by Barbossa, and the gold that Elizabeth took off Will, that was actually an actual doubloon taken by the chest of Cortez himself. And what they did, the natives on that chest, they placed on the gold a curse. And anyone who takes a piece of that chest is punished for all eternity. Hence the reason why we saw them turn into, like, skeletons. Now, that effect, that is awesome. And I want to learn how they pull that off. I mean, granted, we did see how, well, in the behind the scenes documentary of Pirates in the first movie, but overall, I want to try that out for myself because it's pretty awesome. Now, the second film, Dead Man's Chest, I really love of most of all because it introduces to a villain that Jack Sparrow made a deal with called Davy Jones. Now, Davy Jones in particular, the effect on him is really outstanding. I mean, I love he's got all this tentacles on his face. He's in all the barnacles and the giant crab claw. That is amazing. Now, the story behind on how Davy Jones looked like that is because he fell in love with a woman named Calypso, who is an actual goddess. And as I stated, and according to Spider-Man the Animated Series, which was released in 1994, Calypso was a goddess who offered the gift of life. But with that said, it was a really cool story, and we would see it again in the movie at World's End. But what Davy Jones did, he actually took out his heart and placed it in a chest. Now, he can't set foot on land for 10 years, which was kind of sad, and he was tasked with ferrying those who died at sea to the afterlife. Now, Davy Jones in the movie was a cruel man, or should I say sea creature now, since he was in sea and he has all this tentacles, barnacles, and stuff. Now, it was he in particular who made a deal with Jack Sparrow, or in other words, Sparrow made a deal with him to raise the Black Pearl from the depths. But with all that said and done, he did sink the pearl to Davy Jones' locker, to which was like a purgatory. And also, his ship, the Flying Dutchman, is just awesome. Now, the third film, At World's End, is okay. It could use some minor tweaking, but hey, at least we get some good action sequences. I mean, for example, the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman fighting in the Maelstrom with the Black Pearl's crew and Davy Jones's crew going at it on the ship. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Will Turner's father, William, or Bootstrap Bill, whatever you want to call him, he's in this. And of course, the rest of the franchise, including On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales, they're okay. They could use some minor tweaking, but they're okay. Now, the title of the movie, the last one, or so-called last one, saying Dead Man Tell No Tales, that is actually a reference to what we hear throughout the Pirate's Ride, or in the beginning, when you hear a ghostly voice saying, "Dead men tell no tales." Now, that in particular, it tells us that these pirates we see in the beginning are dead. And for example, can dead men talk? No. But overall, the franchise is good, and I can't wait for the next film that will come out years later. When will it come out? We don't know. All we know, it's a pirate's life for me. Sevi. Number 10. The Lion King franchise. The Lion King franchise I saw growing up as a kid, and to this day, I still watch it, including the live-action remake, which is one of my favorites also. Now, the first movie, which was released in 1994, this tells the story of a young lion cub named Simba who dreams of becoming king of the Pride Lands. After being guided by his father, Mufasa, who tragically dies in the movie due to his brother Scar. So Simba runs away and runs and hide, but all of a sudden he grows up and learns you can't run from your problems. And so he returns, confronts his uncle, and he becomes king of the Pride Lands. Now the second film Simba's pride, this tells the story of Simba's daughter, who falls in love with a lion cub, a member of the Outsiders, or I don't know what they're called. It's been too long since I saw the movie. Now, the live action remake of The Lion King, I really love because it's that good. And of course, having James Earl Jones reprise his role as Mufasa in the live action remake is just spectacular. Yeah, he redid some of the lines, but still, it's pretty good. But nothing can compare to the 1994 animated release. Now, of course, one of my favorite scenes is when Simba was in the gorge, which he was practicing his roar, but it was all a trick done by his uncle Scar, played by Jeremy Irons. Now, what he did, he tasked the hyenas to scare a stampede of wildebeest down into the gorge to kill Simba so he can become king of the Pride Lands. Now, that sequence in particular, when Simba was running from the wildebeest, that is spectacular. A mixture of CG and hand-drawn animation. It is awesome. And the music itself, man, it gives me goosebumps every time I see it and watch it. Now, the rest of the story goes, it's really good. Now, as terms of the songs in the movie, they're really good. I mean, Be Prepared is one of my favorite villain songs. And I'm a little heads up, I've never heard the Morning Report song, and nor do I want to. I prefer the original. Now, if you notice the difference when The Lion King was remastered, it's completely different. I mean, Rafiki and Simba move, Scar gets movement, and the alligators get new animation, and even the stuff that's spelled SFX or sex is gone. Now that's pretty awesome. Now, many of you are wondering, I mean, well, as I explained, I did talk about the 2019 remake earlier in the video, as I'm talking about this right now. I enjoy it. I know some people have problems with the live action remake, but me in particular, I love it. And I still watch it. But could it go, sorry about that. But could it use a little more fan service? Maybe. It could. But to be fair, Jon Favreau's work on the movie, it's spectacular. Yeah, for those who know Jon Favreau, he's done a lot of work in Marvel movies, Star Wars shows. I really love his work. Now, again, I love the Lion King franchise, and will Disney do more of it? Maybe. Just give it a little time. I mean, if I directed a sequel to The Lion King, I would give it a little fan service, you know? Give them something the fans would really, really love. But all that aside, I still love the franchise, and I never saw the Broadway show. Yeah, I forgot to mention that in the video. But what are your thoughts on the franchise of The Lion King? Do you love it? Do you enjoy it? What are your thoughts? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Number 9. The MCU. Now, if you know me, you know my channel. I absolutely love Marvel. I mean, who doesn't? It's one of my favorite comic book companies around. Second to Marvel. I mean, DC, my goof. Now, which Marvel movie I'm talking about? Pretty much everything. I mean, I've seen some of them, but not all of them. I mean, I've seen all the Spider-Man movies, I've seen all the Iron Man movies, all the Thor movies, the Captain America movies, the Avenger movies, and Deadpool. Now, as a kid growing up, I saw Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man in all 3 of the Spider-Man movies done by Sam Raimi, and I love it. And when he reprised his role in Spider-Man No Way Home with Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, it's spectacular. I mean, that is like fan service out the wazoo. And of course, Iron Man in particular. I mean, that guy's just awesome. And I've seen Iron Man 3 and the crap ton of armor he made, like all the Mark armors. It's awesome. Everything from the Mark 50, the Mark 52. It's just awesome. I mean, I want one of those armors. I mean, could you imagine me fighting crime with that armor? That is cool. Now, as to the rest, now again, I've seen some, not all. Uh, I've seen all the Avenger movies, ranging from the first one to Age of Ultron, Civil War, and bits and pieces of Endgame. And yeah, and all the Captain America movies are good too. And let's not forget Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool is pretty awesome too. I mean, I've read a little bit of the comics, but I get the premise on who Deadpool is. He's basically this bounty hunter or this mercenary who is injected with some sort of serum that makes him pretty much immortal. I mean, he has this regenerative healing factor that every time he gets slashed or shot, he heals himself. Now, that's pretty cool too. And as for Captain America, that's one of my favorite movies too. I mean, the one with I forget his name. My goof. And I am terrible with names, by the way. Real terrible. And also, Captain America's Civil War, having Tom Holland as Spider-Man, that's pretty cool. I mean, I've seen him in Homecoming, Far From Home, and the latest in No Way Home. I've also seen Doctor Strange as well, but that is pretty cool as well. And I can't wait to see what other Marvel movies they will make in the near future. And a lot of Marvel movies they got a really good material, like really funny stuff. Like, for example, in Avengers, there's when Hulk was confronting Loki. Loki was taunting him, like giving him banter, and Hulk just like grabs him and started throwing him on the floor, and just completely demolish him. And as he walked away, he said, "Puny God." Just completely trashed him. Oh, let's not forget Age of Ultron when Tony Stark said a swear and Captain America said language, and all of a sudden they started running on that gag when Steve Rogers doesn't like bad language. And for gosh sake, watch your language. Oh man. I mean, that is pretty funny though. Now, yeah. So that's my take on the MCU, and I've seen a lot of the Marvel cinematic shows as well, in which I will do a video on that sometime in the near future. But what are your thoughts on the MCU? Do you like them? Are you okay with them? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Number 8. The Cars franchise. With its release in 2006, Cars has become one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies. I mean, I've pretty much seen them all, from Mater's Tall Tales to all 3 of the Cars movies, and every single Cars short. Now, as a kid growing up, I tried to get all the die-cast Disney car toys that are out there. Everything ranging from the Sheriff, Doc Hudson, Mater, Lightning McQueen, Sally, pretty much every single one of them. Now, the first movie I can accept. I mean, it's really good. I mean, to begin with, Lightning McQueen, played by Owen Wilson, finds himself lost in a city on the iconic Route 66, where he befriends a tow truck named Mater, falls in love with a car named Sally, and learns under the famous racer Doc Hudson who's known as the Hudson Hornet. Now, the Hudson Hornet in the movie suffered a big wreck in 1954, and he soon retired after he was rebuilt. And Lightning learns that racing is not about winning or losing. It's just like the same for all sports. Like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's how you play. But it's another story. Now, the second movie, I'm okay with, because it ties around spies and espionage and all that. Now, granted, there were a lot of weird things going on in the second film, but overall, it's okay. Now, Mater gets himself involved in the spy business, but by accident, and mistaking him, the agents, Finn McMissile, one of them, and Holly Shiftwell, mistaken Mater for a spy, the American spy. But Mater comes clean in London after he's being held hostage inside Big Ben, or Big Bentley, which is the British version of the Big Ben in London. And he comes clean and tells him that he's not a spy, just an average tow truck. What I guess for the moral is in that story is just be who you are. No matter who you are, or where you're born, or where you're from, everyone will accept you. Now, Cars 3, on the other hand, I think that is a real Cars 2 sequel. Lightning McQueen gets himself into an accident and retrains himself to be a better race car with all the race cars that he know over the years, retiring and replaced with modern day cars with the latest technology. But over time, he befriends another car who takes up the reins, needs to be the next Lightning McQueen. Now, overall, the series itself is really good. I mean, and I have seen Cars on the Road on Disney Plus, which is really good as well. One of my personal favorite shorts was Lightning and Mater spend a night in a haunted hotel where Lightning was being chased by a ghost car. Now that was pretty something. It kind of reminded me of that one scene in the new Haunted Mansion movie, which is pretty awesome. But what are your takes on this, on the Cars franchise? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Number 7. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Released in the year 1996, which was the same year I was born, Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame tells not only about the ugly duckling story and pretty much acceptance, but about the abuse of power in the church, which back in the 15th century. Now, I never read The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I pretty much know the story. Many years ago in Paris, which was set in the book, as well as the movie, there's a deformed bell ringer named Quasimodo, who not only falls in love with a gypsy woman named Esmeralda, but Esmeralda falls in love with a knight named Phoebus. And Quasimodo has a master named Claude Frollo. What, unlike in the movie, Frollo is a judge of the Palace of Justice who hunts gypsies. In the book, he's a priest. Well, he falls in love with Esmeralda as well. Talk about a love square. Now, the movie itself is pretty much toned down, but it shows some religious aspects, but not only using the city of Paris, but using Notre Dame itself. Now, my guess is the animators traveled to Paris and not only got a layout of Notre Dame, but Paris back many years ago. Now, the gargoyles itself, 2 of them are actually named after the author, Victor and Hugo. And Laverne is actually his sister. Now, granted, and also I've never seen the stage show done by Disney. So, yeah, uh, Disney did a stage show, not um a production with Patrick May and all that.
You saw at Disney. You went to.
Yeah, but I'm actually talking about an actual production. They actually
Yeah,
did an actual stage show. Just telling my mother something. Now, the animation itself in the movie is really outstanding. There's a lot of references to previous Disney movies, like they also brought Pumbaa in from The Lion King, Aladdin's Carpet, and even Belle when she appears walking down the streets of Paris, as while Quasimodo singing the song Out There. Now, the songs itself, they're really good, and one of my all-time favorite songs from the movie is Hellfire, sung by Tony J, who did the voice of Frollo. Now, Hellfire itself is pretty much an iconic song in the movie or any kind of production, and when Disney did stage production. Now, it has everything. It's big, it's loud, it's epic, and the music itself is pretty spectacular. And also the battle sequence when Frollo's soldiers are taking Notre Dame itself, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. We see Quasimodo and the gargoyles with Phoebus' help, along with the gypsies, he's fighting Frollo's soldiers. That's awesome. Now, again, I never read the book, but I understand the premise of it, and some things were changed because the book itself is pretty dark. I mean, but granted, the action sequences are pretty outstanding. But, however, unlike in the stage production and in the book, Esmeralda dies, Frollo dies, and even Quasimodo dies. Spoilers. But however, in Disney's version, only Frollo dies. And in the stage production, Esmeralda and Frollo and Quasimodo dies years later. I mean, yeah, the stage production ties in well with the book. But still, it's actually a really good movie, and I highly recommend you check it out. But what are your thoughts of Hunchback? Is it good? And granted, before I close out, I did see the sequel when I was a really, really young kid. Never saw it but since. Again, I could live without the sequel, but the first Hunchback movie, which was released in 1966, I love. And I still watch it.
96.
Right, my goof, 96. I keep saying 66 because that's the same year Walt Disney died. Yeah, again, love the movie. And what are your guys' thoughts on the movie? Number 6, Pocahontas. Released in the year 1995, Pocahontas tells the story of a Native American woman as part of the Powhatan tribe confronting British settlers from the famed Virginia Company while settling in to what is now Jamestown, Virginia. Now, I actually saw the movie growing up as a kid, and seeing it years later, it's still impressive. I mean, Pocahontas itself, which is a real Native American woman, by the way, met a young man named John Smith. Now, in the movie itself, they did touch on the legend and bits and pieces of it, but the story itself is impressive. I mean, the animation is just gorgeous. Now, there were a lot of connections to the defunct Powhatan tribe. And for example, in the sequel, Pocahontas actually travels to London in which he meets a man named John Rolfe. But still, she does meet John Smith once in a while in the movie and, of course, in real life. Now, as to the live action remake on When Will It Happen, which will never will, because due to the controversy that surrounds the real life Pocahontas, Alan Menken, who did the music for it, chose not to do it. Now, with that said, what do I think of the movie and what are the good about it? Well, the music itself, it's incredible. And one of my favorite songs is, of course, Savages, where the British settlers, led by Governor John Ratcliffe, was about to go to war with the Powhatan tribe. But Pocahontas just stops the both of them from any more bloodshed. But we did see some blood spill a little with the death of Kocoum, which was Pocahontas's fiance in the movie. Now, I don't know if Pocahontas was engaged to anyone, but again, I'm just telling it from my point of view of the movie. Now, I do love the movie and I still watch it once in a while. But what are your guys' thoughts on Pocahontas? Do you love it? And are you okay with it? Or are you still going to stick to the actual real life story and legend of Pocahontas? Please tell me in the comment section down below. Number 5. The Star Wars franchise. Now, if you know me and you know my channel, Star Wars is one of my favorite franchise out there. I mean, when Disney bought it in 2012, they actually brought back some of the Legends material and bringing it to canon once again. Now, depends on what timeline you follow. There are 2 timelines. One that is canon, which is Disney doing the Star Wars right now, and Legends. Now, Legends is what Star Wars had was canon before Disney bought it. Now, me personally, I love both timelines. Now, when I worked on a story, I combined both together because I'm going to give a little fan service. Now, what movies do I like? Pretty much all of them. And I'm a defender of the Star Wars prequels because without them, there wouldn't be a story on how Anakin became Darth Vader, how the Clone Wars was fought, on who these guys were, and anything in between. Now, I've seen every single Star Wars show and movie. I played all the games. Well, some, not all. And yeah. Now, Clone Wars in particular is one of my favorite shows. I mean, I've seen the movie, which was about rescuing the son of Jabba the Hutt. And I still love it. Now, the prequels, on the other hand, they tell a story. And yeah, like I said, I'm defending them because they're awesome. Now, Phantom Menace is really good. I love it. And one of my all-time favorites is Revenge of the Sith, because that's how the Galactic Empire was formed. And with the execution of Order 66, the reformation from the Republic to the Empire, and how Vader became what he is now. After Obi-Wan cut off his legs and his left arm, and leaving him to die on Mustafar after being burned alive. Now, the original trilogy, it's still a favorite, and I still watch it. But for the sequel trilogy, again, I still watch it, and I'm defending the sequel trilogy. And if you got a problem, and if you don't like the sequel trilogy, that's fine. Now, ever since I was introduced to Star Wars as a very young kid, I fell in love with it. I mean, whenever it comes on, I still watch it. And ever since then, I've played 2 Force Unleashed video games, 1 Lego Star Wars video game, one being Clone Wars, the other being the complete saga. And believe it or not, I used to have a PlayStation 2, and I still played both the first Lego Star Wars game and including its sequel, the original trilogy. But once in a while, I still play some Lego Star Wars games once in a while. Now, as to the current Star Wars games that's out there, like Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and Battlefront 2. Have I played it? Unfortunately, no. But maybe someday I will. But with that said, I love Star Wars. And as a Star Wars fan in particular, I'll continue to love Star Wars no matter what comes their way. But what are your thoughts on the franchise? Do you love it? And are you okay with it? Please tell me in the comment section down below. And like I said numerous times in the video, you're going to hear that line a lot, so little heads up. Number 4, Mulan. Released in the year 1998, Mulan tells the story of a Chinese woman who disguised herself as a man to fight an Imperial Chinese army from the invading Han army. The movie is actually based on an actual Chinese legend, despite being true or not. Now, Mulan is actually a really good movie, and I've seen the sequel growing up as a kid, and never saw it since. And I have seen the live-action remake, in which I have to say, it's still good. I mean, despite its flaws, it's actually a really good movie. But nothing compares to the 1998 original. Now, believe it or not, Mulan is actually one of my favorite movies, and it's still good. The animation is top-notch, and some of the songs are really spectacular, but nothing can compare to the action sequences that the rest of the movie played out. And believe it or not, here in America, there was there were women who actually fought in the army long before women were allowed to fight. For example, in the American Revolution, there was a woman named Deborah Sampson who disguised herself as a man and served in the Continental Army. And during the American Civil War, women on both sides fought in the army as well. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? See, when you know history, you tend to learn a few things. Now, still, the movies are really top-notch. And will they remaster the movie? They will, eventually. Only time will tell. Now, believe it or not, the voice actress who played Mulan, the speaking role, she did a live-action cameo in the 2020 remake. And for those who watch Star Wars, you know Fennec Shand? That's the same woman who played Mulan. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? But overall, the story is really good, and the movie itself is wonderful, and I still watch it. It just goes to show that girls can fight just as well as men. And I support women 110%. Number 4, Beauty and the Beast. Released in 1991 during the Disney Renaissance, Beauty and the Beast tells the story of a beautiful woman named Belle, who was a bookworm in her village, and falls in love with a mysterious beast who was originally a prince who was under a curse by an enchantress. Now, the movie in particular is really good, the animated version, and I still love it and I still watch it. And yes, I did see the remake and I still watch that too. Nothing wrong with watching both, but nothing can compare to the original. Now, for those who don't know, here's the story. There was once a selfish prince who was born spoiled, selfish, and unkind. And one winter's night, he confronts or he meets a woman who wants shelter from the bitter cold. Disgusted by her appearance, he just told her to go away. And she told him not to be deceived by appearances, for beauty is found within. But again, he turns away, and the old woman's ugliness melted away to reveal a beautiful enchantress. And he tried to apologize for his actions, but too little too late, because, seeing that there was no love in his heart, the enchantress transformed him into a hideous beast and placed a very powerful spell on the castle and all who lived there. Now, in the remake, they actually expanded it. because the prince in the remake, he taxed the village with anything that's beautiful. And also in the remake, he wiped the memory of his existence from the people of the village in France because, well, he was a jerk. Word advice, don't be a jerk. Be respectful and be kind to everyone. Now, for the woman named Belle, talk about a knockout. I mean, Belle itself, she's actually a really good character. I mean, she's good. She can. And the animation itself is top notch to its day, mixing CG and hand drawn animation. It's still wonderful. I mean, the songs itself, like Tale as Old as Time, Belle, Gaston, the Mob song, they're still my favorite. I mean, I listen to them once in a while, and overall, it's still impressive. Now, as to the remake, they did bring the songs back, though there were some verses that were added into the remake. And still, the action sequences at the castle, that's impressive too. Now, there's a difference in the end, because in the animated version, the beast dies, but somehow when Belle confesses her love to him before the last petal fell, the spell broke. And everyone's reverted back to normal. But in the remake, everyone just straight up dies. But they are revived once the spell is broken. And also for the remake, a lot of actors I know, they did make an appearance. Like, for example, LeFou is actually played by Josh Gad, who you may remember him as the voice of Olaf from Frozen. And Cogsworth is actually played by Magneto from X-Men. And Ewan McGregor plays Lumiere, who you may remember him as Kenobi. Just make sure Sam Witwer's not in it because he may do the Kenobi scream, if you've seen Star Wars Rebels. But overall, both movies are really good. But will there be another remake? There will be eventually, but still. Nothing was wrong with liking both versions. I mean, the remakes is just a retelling of iconic movies, but giving them a little twist to it. But still, they're still good, and I still watch them. Number 3. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah, I know I'm a sucker for Disney princess fairy tales, so just bear with me on this, okay? If it wasn't for this movie, Disney wouldn't make movies like we got today. I mean, in fact, this was the first full-length animated movie that Disney rocketed itself to fame. Released in the year 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs tells the story of a princess who hides from her wicked stepmother in a home belonging to 7 dwarfs. Now, I really love this movie. And I still do. I mean, this was a favorite Disney movie to this very day. I know there are other Disney princess movies that are favorites, like Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Princess and the Frog, and all that. But overall, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is really spectacular. I mean, during the production, they actually used rotoscoping for Snow White, the Witch, the Prince, and even the Huntsman. Now, rotoscoping is where they not only film the actors and actresses doing certain things, but they also trace certain scenes as well. Now, this is a process that Disney would do many, many years later. And they also do a thing called recycling animation, because there's a lot of way to save money. Now, say you're watching a certain scene in like Robin Hood, you see Maid Marian dancing around with a couple of animals dancing around her. Now, if that scene doesn't look familiar to you, that was from Snow White. Now, Disney, during the production, put everything into making Snow White. He He put his car up, his mortgage up, everything. I mean, call Disney's folly. I mean, by the news back in the 30s. It's no, Disney risked everything, but when the movie was released, it became an instant success. And yes, I still watch this movie. And I know some people out there watch Disney princess movies as well, so don't judge. And this somehow is connected to me because many, many years ago, and this is actually true, and I'm sure I explained this in a video or two, but here it is. Now, many years ago, I was on vacation to Walt Disney World with my family, and I was filming the Main Street Electrical Parade, which is one of the most iconic parades in Disney history, or Distory as Disney Dan calls it. Now, when they got to Snow White, after the mine cart, she blew a kiss just at me, and I thought she was aiming towards my younger brother, my father, or my uncle, or anyone else. Now, I was still filming at the time. Now she came up to me and said, "I blew you a kiss. Didn't you give me one?" So I just did this, and she went on her way. Now, she wasn't being mean. She was just curious. Now, that actually embarrassed me. And I spent the rest of the trip hiding from her because, well, I didn't want to go through that again. But it wasn't until 2016 I managed to conquer my fear and actually meet her. After I saw the movie, after my trip to Disney. Now, it was that movie that actually became a favorite to me. Now, if you want to see the movie, see the video of me meeting Snow White, which was recorded by my aunt, by the way, I'll put a link in the description below so that way you can see it. Now, what I did, I actually took off my forge cap and did this. Curtsy. Being a gentleman. But still, I really love this movie, regardless of the trouble Disney went through to make this movie a reality. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? And yes, I've seen some behind the scenes stuff on it, including on a documentary on how the movie was made. And I even saw a deleted scene of the Wicked Queen, which is disguised as an old hag, boiling a cauldron to make the spell for the poisoned apple. There was also another deleted scene which was animated but not colored. Not colored in, I should say. Is where Happy and Grumpy, not Happy, Doc and Grumpy were getting into an argument over for Snow White because she wanted to stay in the dwarf's cottage to hide from Snow White's stepmother. But when they finally relented and then say she can stay, she was pleased. But overall, the story, the animation, and the songs, they're still good. And I listen into the songs and still watch the movie once in a while. But hey, if it wasn't for this movie, Disney wouldn't make movies like we got today. Remember that. Number 2. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Released in the year 1993, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas tells a man by the name of Jack Skellington who's tired of the Halloween season and wants to change it with Christmas. Now, I consider this to be both a Halloween and Christmas movie because, well, Halloween is in it as well as Christmas, so just go with it. Now, unlike many of the Disney movies, this was done by stop-motion animation. You know how it is with Lego when many YouTubers and other social media sites use stop-motion? That's it. What they did, they take an object, let's say a Pop-Tart, for example. You take this, get a picture of it, move it over one, get a picture, and it would continue to make it like the Pop-Tart is coming to life. Or you can use anything, whatever. Now, I really love this movie. Regardless if it's Halloween or Christmas, it's actually a really good movie. I mean, Tim Burton and the people who worked on the movie, they did a really good job. Now, the songs itself, they're spectacular, like This Is Halloween, Making Christmas, and the town meeting, and Sally's song, and all that. Now, I've seen that, but I've never played the video game of Oogie's Revenge, and I've never ridden the Haunted Mansion Holiday overlay as was done in Anaheim, including Tokyo. Yeah, Magic Kingdom doesn't get a Nightmare Before Christmas holiday overlay. It's just as is. Now, overall, Jack Skellington, man, he's impressive. I mean, this guy was everywhere ever since the movie was released. Now, I never met Jack Skellington in the parks, maybe someday, but overall, the movie itself is still impressive. I mean, his love interest, or the love interest for Jack, Sally, which was actual zombie stitched together, she's good too. I mean, she helped Jack save Santa in order to save Christmas. Now, why was Jack doing this in the movie? Well, as I explained, he's getting tired of doing the same thing for Halloween every single year. So he wants to change it up to Christmas. So he stumbled upon a wooded area that has all the holidays in it, like Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and all that. He comes across Christmas and discovers the many wonderful things in that town, like elves and toy making, and gingerbread, Christmas trees, and everything. That's the reason why in the song he says, "What's this?" Well, he soon got his answer in the end of the song, and said, "Why don't I do that?" Okay, it didn't go exactly like that, but you get the premise. Now, overall, it's still good. I mean, I really love the songs. This Is Halloween, and Mr. Oogie Boogie, He's Sally's Song, Making Christmas. They're still impressive. But now, like I said, regardless if it's Christmas or Halloween, Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favorite movies. And I still watch it, regardless of what holiday it could be. And here are some of my honorable mentions. And my number one favorite Disney movie is the 2003 and the 2023 Haunted Mansion movie. Let's start with 2023. After the success of Pirates of the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl, Disney decided to test CGI out on their other famous attraction, the Haunted Mansion. The result was, despite the movie's flaws, it's actually really good. I mean, the effects are top-notch, the setting was spectacular, the music is phenomenal, and some of the actors' choices were good. Like, for example, Terrence Stamp have nailed it as Ramsley. Nathaniel Parker was top-notch as Edward Gracie. Watching Emma and Ezra bigger back and forward is kind of funny. And above all, it's okay. But some of the actors' choices I have to talk about. Not that I have anything against them or anything. To begin with, Eddie Murphy's funny. I like him. But every time I hear him, I keep thinking of either a donkey from Shrek or Mushu from Mulan, which he did work with Disney before. But it feels like he did another one of his stand-up routines before he took up acting. I mean, I know he did it before, but that's just my opinion. But here's the story. Real estate agent named Jim Evers, played by Eddie Murphy, and his family go to an old mansion in Louisiana, which discovered to be haunted. Now, there's actually a story on how the mansion became haunted. In the 1880s, Edward Gracie was hosting a masquerade ball in his mansion after announcing his marriage to an African American woman named Elizabeth Henshaw. But during the masquerade, Elizabeth was found murdered in a library, which ultimately led to his suicide by hanging. Now that was a reference. Now the hanging Gracie we see like in the opening and somehow during when Edward is talking to Sarah, played by Marsha Thompson, that was a reference to the hanging man we see in the portrait hallway in the ride, which is dark even for a Disney movie. So many years later, Jim Evers and his family traveled to the mansion to see if they could sell the mansion, which Edward Gracie is trying to sell, but in actuality, this was all done by Ramsley because the mansion is under a curse. And this is where it gets confusing. Either Sarah marries Edward and the curse is lifted, or the truth is revealed and the curse is lifted. I know it seems confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. But overall, I find the movie enjoyable. Despite its flaws, it's still a good film. Now, on to 2023. Gabby and his son, and again, I'm terrible with names. Now, Gabby, played by Rosario Dawson, moves into Gracie Mansion to see if they can make it into a bed and breakfast. But they soon realize the mansion itself is haunted. Not only is it haunted by ghosts from all over the world, hence the mansion, but it's also ruled by a one guy named Alistair Crump, who we know him as the Hatbox Ghost. And this is actually confirmed by Disney itself. Now, Alistair Crump is linked to two names. Now, one guy is actually linked to Satanism, and the other guy, Crump, is a relation to Rolly Crump, who actually did work on a Haunted Mansion before. But now, Rolly Crump died this year, and the movie was released the exact same year he died. So the people who worked on the movie thought, why don't we pay homage to the guy? I mean, after all, he did work on the mansion. Now, I did see the movie, and if you saw from my reaction video and my review video, I love it. And I still do. I mean, the effects are really good. There was a lot of references to the ride. And the actors they did a wonderful job. In the action sequence, in the climax of the movie where Ben is facing the Hatbox Ghost, was because a grave is opening to him. Because Crump sensed his feelings over the death of Ben's wife, Alyssa, who tragically died in a car crash. And during the movie, you could see and feel the pain he's going through. And not only was he going through pain, but Gabby's son is as well, because Ben's son's father, he's dead. And Ben tells him that he feels his pain and he wants to share his pain with them until there's no more pain left to harbor. Which is a really good character development. But overall, a lot of references, as I stated, they were really good. Like, for example, in the opening sequences, we see a lot of paintings to not only the Hatbox Ghost, but three of the famous hitchhiking ghosts, which we saw in the movie, Phineas, Ezra, and Gus. Now, in the scene where Ben is confronted by the Hatchet guy, in which we saw him hanging in the rafters in the portrait gallery, he was in the Endless Hallway. Now, the Endless Hallway is a misty passage that's begging you to enter, but offering no end to it. And the Hatchet guy, that's the Hatbox Ghost. And we saw him as we traveled through the corridor doors, both in the Orlando, Tokyo, and Anaheim mansion. Which is actually really cool. And we actually see the owner of the mansion for the first time, named William Gracie. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what, no Edward? I mean, he's master of the mansion too. But that aside, it's still a good movie. I mean, both movies are. And I still highly recommend you watch them. I mean, if you're into the weird, insane stuff, or if you're still a Haunted Mansion fan, these movies are for you. So, yeah, there's that. And that's my list of all my favorite Disney movies. With that said, why don't we raise a glass to the Walt Disney Company, to Disney. Here's to the next 100 years, and here's to the next Disney show, movie, attraction, and that's coming this way in the near future. So, here's to you, Disney. Jindan. And that's it for this video. And if you have a favorite Disney movie you'd like to share, please tell me in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more like this, then please feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notifications so that way you can be notified if I upload the next video. And as always, this is LEGO Mega 96 1 signing off.